In the previous segments, we talked about how our attention to little or fictional monsters can take our attention away from the really big threats, and about how the media often aids this process by ignoring the big monsters in the room. We talked about how the media puts makeup on monsters to make them look appealing, or dresses them up to make them look cute and attractive, and how people hide behind false personas to hide their hidden agendas. In this segment, we will discuss how America became fertile ground for the spread of moral evils, more specifically through legalized white-collar crime, the relaxation of industry financial and safety standards, the removal of industry regulators, and active efforts to silence industry critics. We will start with selective prosecution of white-collar crime. In recent years, there has been a moral collapse in America, with the notable exception of American greed. Crime shows tend to keep the focus on petty criminals, as opposed to white-collar crime, which is actually much more profitable and destructive. Or they may focus on some tawdry sex scandal, as opposed to who is taking a bribe from who, diverting our eyes away from the really big monsters in the room. And while courageous souls on social media and a few courageous politicians have been trying to get to the full truth behind the Jeffrey Epstein scandals, the corporate media continues to keep the focus on Jeffrey Epstein himself, focusing the story on one horribly corrupt soul rather than those who partook of the services he was offering them. Most people still see this as about one corrupt soul rather than a broken corporate culture. So while we understand that society's morality meter is out of whack, we may or may not realize how broken the corporate culture really is, due to the justice system's assistance to prosecute wealthy or well-connected criminals, and how that broken culture has infiltrated and poisoned the culture of many, if not most, prosperity gospel-based churches in America. A culture we will call simply legalized criminality, or how the spread of this corruption may be affecting us personally, or impacting our efforts to have a pure heart and maintain a good relationship with God, before that corruption and criminality reaches out to bite us personally.
Do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts good morals.
American industry pioneered mass production and the assembly line process, and Dunning and others pioneered industry processes to ensure product reliability and safety. And our society has always had ethical, legal, and technical standards and processes to prevent the spread of corruption in society and to keep us safe. And we have public and private officials whose jobs are to ensure that those standards are adhered to. Building inspectors to make sure that our buildings are safe and meet or exceed local standards. Quality control specialists to make sure products like pharmaceuticals are safe by testing for impurities. Process control specialists to make sure that managers are not taking shortcuts in the manufacturing process. Security inspectors to make sure our security standards are being met and that bad actors cannot get access to our personal information. And legal counselors to help companies understand their legal liabilities and help them to conform to legal requirements, with the goal of cutting down on fraud and reduce the temptation to cut corners. Without them, we might see a spike in manufacturing defects, exposing consumers to unnecessary risks and companies to liability lawsuits. We might see the collapse of commercial or residential real estate, such as was the case with the Surfside condo in Miami. In healthcare, we could see an increase in misdiagnoses or the spread of contagious disease that could otherwise be prevented. In food preparation, we could see the spread of E. coli or other pathogens due to unclean food preparation or storage processes. In finance, we could see a growth in financial fraud or consumers being taken advantage of by unscrupulous financial officials. But not everybody is happy with these protective standards and processes, and there are a number of ways that they can be undermined.
I will not tolerate this level of error. Speed it up now, or there will be consequences.
Next, we will cover relaxed standards, and unfortunately, it is mostly conservatives who have been systematically attacking these protections designed to keep us and our families safe in an effort to get them removed or to severely weaken them in a short-sighted attempt to boost short-term company profits for their wealthy donors, while lining their own pockets and claiming to be public servants, and too many do this while claiming to be servants of Christ. Now, let's pivot and look at some real cases of public servants that have been in the news. We will cover the removal of regulators. Though heavily supported by their evangelical Christian base, Trump's White House suggested that they were not interested in moral issues at all when they dumped their legal counsel and conducted a series of public firings of inspector generals. They followed that up by laying off thousands of regulatory officials throughout government, many of whom were responsible for ensuring the health and safety of Americans and their families, and gutted the nation's environmental protection system. But don't look to the Supreme Court to uphold any gutted standards, with conservative members accepting free vacations, cruises, and educational benefits from wealthy benefactors in violation of ethics rules they themselves agreed to adhere to. And while we're on the topic, let's talk about some of those evangelical leaders that supported Trump and these conservative justices. The Southern Baptist Convention forced out their own ethics chief, Russell Moore, because he was pointing out ethical problems in the SBC. Likewise, Franklin Graham pulled his organization out of the ECFA, financial accountability organization his own father founded, complaining that their rules were too constricting. And 2024 was so full of evangelical corruption scandals that the news media couldn't keep up. At one point, 10 megachurches in Texas lost their lead pastors to scandals in only a few months.
Adultery, sexual assault, solicitation, bullying, investment fraud, misappropriation of funds.
But Franklin Graham thinks the accountability rules are too strict.
No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon.
But one could say, so why not let business owners and managers police themselves? Well, 346 people died on Boeing 737 MAX aircraft because the FAA approved an aircraft that was not fully flight worthy. And when Purdue Pharma got oxycodone approved for use on hospice patients and began marketing it as general usage, thousands became addicted and hundreds of thousands died because someone in the regulatory chain wasn't doing their job. 98 people died in the Surfside condo collapse because local politicians were dishing out building permits to builders who were cutting corners. The 2008 financial crisis happened in large part because conservative regulators relaxed requirements on banks to regulate themselves. And mass shootings in this country exploded because conservatives led regulations banning assault weapons to expire. Thus, we already know what happens when we let industry police itself.
You won't believe what happened. I know, it's crazy.
Not much actual policing takes place, but the point is that too much of American corporate culture is polluted, and in some cases is downright toxic. But evangelical leaders would have us to believe that the biggest threat to our country is a bunch of abortion rights activists, while they continue to line their pockets with gifts from their good friends in the billionaire class, partaking of the forbidden fruit time and time and time again. If we allow these deeply compromised celebrity leaders to be our standards, then we are indeed lost at sea. Next, we will cover how organizations silence their critics, but there will always be people of conscience who will buck the system in order to ensure standards are not compromised. So, we will cover several ways immoral techniques organizations use to silence critics and whistleblowers, threatening the media, catch and kill, spin campaigns, and various types of personal retribution. Corrupt organizations may threaten legal action against media outlets to keep news about their misdeeds from leaking out. Seemingly expensive, organizations often spend millions on lawyers to head off potential scandals, leaving fewer places for potential whistleblowers to go. Next, catch and kill is a surreptitious technique employed by newspapers and media outlets to prevent an individual from publicly revealing information damaging to a third party. The media company buys exclusive rights to the story, saying that they will air it, and then buries it. The book Catch and Kill details strategies by the wealthy and connected for using partisan media giants to buy a whistleblower's silence to keep the story away from the public. Spin is a kind of propaganda that twists the truth to persuade people. Spin can use half-truths and strong feelings to change how we see things. Spin doctors are people who create and spread spin to shape public opinion. Spin campaigns, which is effectively propaganda in the form of public relations, can effectively warp the facts of a story and deflect blame away from organizations. The book Deadly Spin details the use of spin to protect healthcare giants and the resulting damage to rural healthcare communities. Finally, corrupt organizations might threaten retributions like firings, blacklisting, or even physical intimidation designed to force whistleblowers into silence. While firings are the usual path, the mortality rate from accidentally deaths for whistleblowers in some large cases has climbed suspiciously high. Not likely because large corporations are murdering whistleblowers. More likely because people don't like it when others interfere with their money supply. Despite all this, conscientious citizens still work hard to hold the rich and powerful to account. Virginia Giuffre was an Australian and American advocate for survivors of sex trafficking and one of the most prominent accusers of Jeffrey Epstein. Giuffre provided detailed allegations to media outlets about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. An American whistleblower who was known for his substantiated safety and quality reports to the FAA about Boeing's production of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. A former United States Customs Service employee who exposed rampant racial profiling against black travelers while working at Hartsfield International Airport in Atlanta, Georgia. As a New Jersey state trooper, Hobson witnessed an unlawful arrest and false charges of a woman made by a fellow trooper. Consequently, Hobson refused to testify in court supporting the unlawful arrest. An American forensic accounting and financial fraud investigator and former securities industry executive, best known for initially discovering Bernie Madoff's Ponzi scheme in the late 1990s. James J. Bobreski blew the whistle on the D.C. Water and Sewage Authority, WASA, in 1999 while working at the Blue Plains Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant as a contracted process control technician. Jeffrey Wigan had been recently fired from his position as Vice President of Research and Development at tobacco company Brown and Williamson when, on February 4th, 1996, he stated on the CBS News program 60 Minutes that the company intentionally manipulated the level of nicotine in cigarette smoke to addict smokers. Cortland Kelly was the head of the General Motors Inspection and Quality Assurance Program for many years. He found faults in the Chevrolet Cavalier and the Chevrolet Cobalt and repeatedly reported them with little response. Discovered widespread unexplained illness in Hinckley, California, and helped the town sue the utility company. Silkwood worked as a chemical technician at a Kerr-McGee nuclear plant. The 1983 film Silkwood is an account of this story. Of course, the truth does eventually come out. After the Bernie Madoff scandal, Harry Markopolos documented his efforts to warn the SEC in the book No One Would Listen. And accounts of Purdue Pharma's addicting thousands to oxycodone have been told as well. God called us to be the salt of the earth and the light of the world, not the leaders of corruption and criminality.
Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on an hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven.
If we care nothing for our own health and safety, we should at least care enough for our children to stand up and oppose these forces, and stop pretending that we are in right relationship with God when we do nothing to oppose the spread of evil in our world. In this segment, we discussed how America became fertile ground for the spread of moral evils, and how our culture uses legalized white-collar crime, the relaxation of industry financial and safety standards, the removal of industry regulators, and active efforts to silence industry critics to facilitate the spread of evil in this world. In the next segment, we will begin discussing the care and feeding of monsters and how they got that way.